testimony by a great panel here, and Mr. Thomas, our heart goes out to you. I know how much you've done for your community, and I can relate to growing up in a small town like that, as Mr. Allison's always performed just incredibly well when it comes to the youth programs and the arts and science and the athletics of our communities. When people need help, it's supplying those vans, and sometimes it's just just letting them use it for a day or so. I know how sometimes that getting people to where they need to go means a tremendous amount. And when you have that type of payroll and you have that type of impact to a community, especially a growing community, wow! I mean, we actually had a Lowe's going to go up in my hometown where I live now, but they said no, it's just not going to. And we feel like we're a growing community, but they said, well, just not now. So even though the property was already graded and ready to go, so that just goes to show to me that you are in a growing community. I guess, Dr. Goss, one of the first questions I have is when you look at the overall impact in the communities, especially the rural areas, what is the impact to these communities when one dealership goes and then to the people? I mean, the things that we don't hear about, it's the buying the goods and services. I mean, what overall impact? How big a shadow does it cast when you lose a company such as this?
Well, Chairman Shuler, obviously, as Mr. Allison and Mr. Thomas have testified to, it's very significant. So the decisions of travel time, for example, that's not in the matrix of decision making. And I think the biggest problem, one of the largest problems from my standpoint, is lack of transparency. The banks that we survey are complaining loudly about where's the analysis. Where did GM? It seemed to be arbitrary and capricious. But to your question, you've got retail sales, and the retail sales spills over into wholesalers, which spills over into restaurants, and so on and so forth. You've got very significant impacts, and again, it's particularly large and relative to the economy in these small communities where there may be no other dealership. For example, in Auburn, Nebraska, there is no other dealership there. This is their dealership, and by losing their license, by losing the dealership franchise, it's going to be quite significant and ripple across the community. But also, you've got in that part of the country, I should say, the part I live in, you've got farmers who use the dealerships as well for buying parts, for repairs, that doesn't really show up in my analysis, and I would argue doesn't show up in GM or Chrysler's analysis. But I have to say I've yet to see Chrysler and GM's analysis. This again, we went from $11 a barrel of oil in '98. We went to $147 a barrel last year. In other words, we've got this very large volatility in lots of factors. Yet we're making decisions, or GM and Chrysler is making decisions that will last forever for these communities. These are communities in the middle section of the country, perhaps not on the East Coast in North Carolina, but in Missouri and Nebraska, where population losses are quite significant and something we need to pay attention to, depopulation. So this is another nail in the coffin in some cases for some of these communities. And again, without transparency, without analysis, we're talking about two corporations that got $64 billion, yet we, at least I haven't, the bank CEOs that I survey, have not seen what's the analysis. Where's the cost? You're taking taxpayer money, yet you've yet to show to the public where are you giving back? In other words, this looks like a taking. Now, I'm talking about the bank CEOs that I survey. I'm coming at it as an economist, pretty sterile, as you can probably imagine, but nonetheless, trying to get at it. And I've yet to see the analysis. I mean, maybe GM and Chrysler can show that, but it's yet to be. Those out there, those of us in the hinterland, have yet to see it.
Well, and unfortunately, in small communities, I think these two gentlemen have stated obviously their financial strength and not having debt. But if there are some of these communities, I guess the TARP funding is there for some of the people from the banks that are going to be having to lose obviously the revenue, and when they're not having the businesses and when they're not having no one's the dealership's not able to pay the loan back. So obviously we've certainly created a mess, no doubt about it.
And speaking of the TARP revenues, sorry for interrupting there,
Oh,
but a lot of the feeling out there, at least I do 3 surveys of purchasing managers and bank CEOs. A lot of the feeling is that we've done business, yet we've got no TARP funds, and now we're being, in the case of auto dealerships, being punished even though we're a viable going concern. Show us where is the analysis? Show us why this is happening, because again, as Mr. Allison and Mr. Thomas have demonstrated, or at least discussed, playing by the rules, not getting TARP funds, yet being shuttered anyway. That message is loud and clear in our surveys each month. So I'm very concerned about without transparency, without any analysis, at least from what I've seen.
Mr. Allison, can you talk briefly about the process that you're having to go through now and some of the obstacles that, with your employees and the benefits that they have and health insurance, and can you just briefly touch on that? Some of I know you told me the story about you kind of read the FedEx with your employees and kind of the openness that you had with all your folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. The first thing is, I guess we pride ourselves on offering not just a good wage, but a complete, or as complete as possible, benefit package. We try to stay at least with the competition, both in the industry and around, the other similar industries in our community, and most times try to have a better package so that we can attract the best people. With that being said, Mr. Thomas's experience, I'm sure, has been multiplied, countless times with a lot of us dealers, and we're no exception. The way that we were notified that we wouldn't go forward with GM like the other dealerships is they literally delivered the letter via FedEx. And in Sylvan, North Carolina, that FedEx comes right to the door of Allison Chevrolet and right up to the cashier's window. So everyone that's in the dealership, both the employees and the customers, of course, immediately knew about it. When it came in, I was actually with my son at the doctor's office in Asheville, which is about 50 miles away, and the office manager called me and said, "We got a letter, got a FedEx." And I said, "Well, I'm just about finished. If you would just have people patiently wait, and I'll be there in about an hour." So when I got there, I said, "Give me just a few minutes and let me read through this letter, and then we'll talk about it." So we kind of chose to do something differently than maybe GM had suggested, which was hold that information kind of close to your chest. I felt like the most honest and fair thing I could do with the employees in the community was just tell them the truth. And so with that, we've kind of embarked on the process of, which has been somewhat lengthy and definitely harrowing, of trying to appeal, and these appeals are made really just through email and to we don't know who.
What is the actual cost? I mean, how much do you give back to the auto manufacturer, the automaker, versus how much you actually cost them? I mean, I'm only assuming there has to be some cost relative to what every dealership actually costs the automaker.
That's the thing that I fail to see. On a monthly basis, we pay for all kinds of things that relate us to GM. We actually pay for the delivery of our parts to repair cars from General Motors. We pay for our service training, for our sales training. We even pay to go to a dealer meeting. If we don't send someone that we've signed up for service training then we're charged a fee, a no-show fee. We pay for every poster, every piece of literature, sales literature. We pay for the books that we train ourselves out of and use as a comparative analysis for, to talk to the customers with. We pay for using the ability to communicate via the computer with General Motors to report our sales and to order our parts and that kind of thing. So, I don't know, it probably runs on an average month a little over $3,000.
That you pay the automaker?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And how much do you think that you're costing them a month?
I fail to see that I'm really costing them anything. I mean, our relationship as far as their calling on us is through the telephone.
So when they deliver a vehicle, you've basically paid for it then?
Yes, sir.
So whether you sell it or it sits on the lot for 10 years, it really is no impact to them?
That's exactly right. Other than the fact that, to be fair, that if we didn't sell it and had an accumulation of those vehicles, ultimately we wouldn't order any more.
Right.
But
have you ever failed to have someone on your, vehicles on your lot for an extended time, far exceeding what you expected to order? I mean, obviously during this last couple of years, it's been very difficult.
yes, sir. And occasionally you'll get a vehicle for whatever reason just seems to stay. But for the most part, they move rather quickly.
Okay. At this time, I'll yield to the ranking member, Mr. Luca.